Give me 1 second as we go live on Facebook. Okay, we are connected. Go live. Okay. It's preparing to stream our live to Facebook, so give it 1 more minute. I don't think we're live just yet. Okay, guess what? We are now live to Facebook. So, got it. So, thank you, Aviva, for joining me today. I know it's a challenge in the middle of summer when there's so many other things to do to take some time off and get on Facebook and chat with me, but I appreciate you. And what I like to tell my friends is that healthy living is about more than just fruits and vegetables, diet and exercise and that type of thing. There's so many aspects in our life to help us stay healthy. And I think having healthy relationships and healthy communication skills is critical. It helps us, live a less stress-filled life. And anyways, that's why I invited you to chat with me today. So those of my friends who don't know Aviva, have not yet met Aviva. Aviva is what I like to call is a communication expert. But Aviva, I want you to kind of put in your own words what exactly it is you do and how you help people.
Well, I work with people regarding their relationships being healthier and having them feel more connected. A lot of the time, the difficulty and pain in relationships has to do with not feeling that people understand each other. They don't get through to each other. It's ongoing frustration between them. It happens in every situation, from close partnerships, couples, families, business relationships, school relationships, every relationship. We've not been taught the skills that I've been able to teach people when they work with me, of being more connected, how to feel that way, how to behave in a way that will make you get more from your relationships, having each other understood. So that's my relationship work. I do a type of work called Imago relationship therapy. That's couples work. I also do something called safe conversations, which I use the skill sets that I'm teaching couples in other settings, such as businesses, schools, community groups. And I also am an energy psychology practitioner of EFT, which is tapping, emotional freedom technique. And that's a self-administered self-care method to help people de-escalate their stress and their nervous system relaxes. And I do that, and I can explain more later in the conversation.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something I'm definitely interested in hearing more about, because EFT is something that is new to me. But let's go back to communications. Now, for me, I know that over the years I've been in relationship with people, either business or personal, where there was absolutely dysfunctional communication. I mean, it just, how do you address those type of situations with people when if you have two people, whether they're partners, whether they're, business partners, romantic partners, family members, whatever they are, how do you address that with them when they're having, when they come to you and they're not communicating properly?
Well, one of the skill sets that's very important to have, first of all, is slowing down in relationships and in communication. We live in a world that's very fast-paced, instant gratification, multitasking, not paying full attention in any specific area of our lives. And when you need to have a relationship with anyone that's important to you, whether it be personally or in business or in any other situation, the most important factor is that you're understanding each other. And if people are rushing and multitasking and not paying full attention, they are not able to do that, because the brain cannot handle. I mean, we can do lots of things at once. That's what the world is like at this point in time, where you're actually given a lot of praise for being able to do as many things as possible at one time. But that's really not helpful, especially in close relationships or relationships that are important in business and work and school and other situations. Slowing down is one part. I help people learn how to slow down and pay more attention. Pay more attention is always with not only just slowing down your nervous system by going slower, taking some deep breaths, getting centered before you have a conversation in a session that I'll work with people on, but teaching them the skills of active listening. And that takes place with a term called mirroring, so that I teach people that very important basic step about how they're going to understand each other fully by being able to actively listen to someone that's speaking with them. And we have different exercises in the sessions I work with or in the workshops that I do, where I teach mirroring so that people understand that it's an active process. Many times when I introduce it to people, they don't understand it and they get overwhelmed by the idea that they have to pay that much attention. And the issue is that we're not socialized to pay that much attention. We are socialized to be competitive, to overtalk, to interrupt, to debate with other people. And that whole skill set of not listening or competing or dismissing does not work for connecting. So I'm always helping people understand the differences. It helps if you're on a debate team or if you're a politician and want to have an argument, but that's not what it's about when it comes to feeling that people understand each other fully.
Right. So first step, slow down, pay attention, and then mirror back so that you've got a clear understanding of what the person is saying. And I think that slowing down and is probably the hardest part for a lot of people, and then the paying attention, because oftentimes in conversation, I think people are thinking about already how they want to respond or what they want to say back, and they're not really paying close attention to you. You find that that's often the case with
yes, and they have a lot of self-consciousness about, I better make sure I know what to say next. It's even, they're about so busy with what's going on in their own heads that they can't hear because of that. And then sometimes if they have heard something, they have interpreted it through a lens of their own experience or their own judgment, opinion, backgrounds. Everything affects how we take in information. So when I work with people, I have to also help them understand that what you're hearing from someone is what they're telling you, from what they mean for it to be, not for what you're deciding it is, because that's another problem with people feeling disconnected or not hearing each other actively. They are creating a story. They have the story they tell themselves, is one line that we use in Imago therapy, which has to do with our natural human tendency to interpret in our own lens, make our own stories up, assume something about someone's meaning, assume someone's behavior is going to be X, Y, or Z, because it's always been that way. It's a lot of unlearning that I do. I teach, but I help people unlearn things that aren't working, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I've in some of the training that I've done on personal development, what I've heard is, you've got to stop telling the story. The story that you're telling yourself is, and we do that throughout our life, it seems like, in all kinds of situations. You go into a business meeting and you've already got this story going into your mind of what's going to happen, and we've got to get out of that habit. So is there any easy tricks to stop that?
Well, most of the time it's awareness, but awareness means slowing down, going at a different pace, thinking, okay, I'm going to try very hard to be present. Being present is another aspect. Now, the lucky part about all of that is that currently in the world, there's a lot of holistic methods being shown to people, meditation, going slower, yoga, things where we're learning how to be more mindful of our bodies and our minds. So all of that type of skill set, or those skill sets, will help us in things like connecting verbally. The story we tell ourselves stuff, that is just human nature. And part of that has to do with the reason we tell ourselves stories, and we usually end up telling ourselves the most negative possible story, if you've noticed. We don't say the best thing that can happen is, and that's going to happen. We say, oh, I bet that's going to be horrible, and the worst thing that's going to happen is. There's something called the negativity bias. And so the brain will do that for the fact that the brain is the same brain, even though we all carry a different one now in 2022. We all have a primal brain in our ancestral heritage, the primal amygdala, where the danger signals of we have to look out for the lion, tiger, bear in the environment. We haven't lost that. So what happens is we translate it into modern times. And so we see other people as that type of danger to us. Even people we've been in close relationship with for a very long time, what happens is the mind does that part of the story we tell ourselves. And because we've known someone a long time, there's an assumption, which is not correct, but it's an assumption we make. If I know this person a very, very long time, I already know what they're going to do, what they're going to say, how they think, and how they feel. Not true. That's why when you're listening to them actively with mirroring back what they've said to you, another challenge is that you need to say, I'm also going to behave in a way that I'll be curious and open to what the person is going to tell me, so that maybe they're telling me something about what they mean that I'm not understanding, and they're going to let me know. So that's another aspect. I'm always trying to help people go slower, pay more attention, be more present, find a way to slow down and get centered. And when those things happen, anytime we slow down, a lot more goes on that's productive. If most people have noticed that, with that aspect of flow that people have when they're in work, that they're really just going through it, time passes, they don't notice it, because they're really focusing, they're present, they usually have slowed down, and that's something, all those things really help with people feeling that they understand each other better.
So communication isn't just what's coming out of the mouth. It's more, to me, it seems like it's more listening. It's more your listening skills than actually what you're saying.
And your brain, knowing that your brain will do things that human nature will cause it to do, in almost equal amounts. What I help people with is not just the verbal stuff coming out back and forth, it's the understanding of what's going on in their brains, which is part of their body. What's going on in your brain when you feel that you're not understood, then you feel that that's unsafe. I'm trying to help people understand how to be safe with each other, to be clear with each other. It's not just the words, it's how we interpret facial expressions. If you've ever talked to someone who's gotten that shutdown expression in their face, or uninterested, or their body language, they sit back and they're yeah, I'm listening to you. They're not fully making you feel like you're being listened to. So I try to help people understand that anything we do with someone else, they are picking up on the clues all the time, and you're offering certain things all the time. A lot of what I do is about what's going on with that dynamic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That does really make sense. To me, you know, what would you say is probably the biggest benefit of really keying in and honing in on your communication skills, you know, paying attention, you know, and working on this area? What would be the greatest benefit to somebody to spend time doing that?
Well, the greatest benefit is that the misunderstanding part has usually gone out of the room. If you've made sure you've understood someone and they make sure that they're understood, vice versa, the idea that you're just going to have to make a conclusion based on guesswork is gone, even though your brain will try to do that still. But if you've had enough of this conditioning of, I better be actively listening, I better slow down, let me make sure I've understood what they say, because that's part of what I teach, is let me make sure I got that. People are checking in with each other to make sure they've understood each other. So all of that sort of clears out the clutter. There's clutter and misunderstanding. So helping people be more clear with each other is important. It can even take the form of texting when you're being texted, because that's always very confusing. If somebody means something, what tone of voice, did they mean that? Are they sarcastic? It's always important or helpful to say, let me just let you know what I've heard here, or I think I may have this right. Please clarify what you mean. And I do that. And sometimes my texts might be a little more wordy than the average person. Generationally, that will happen to people like ourselves in our demographic. We'll have longer texts. It won't all be acronyms, but that actually, you know, then you can clarify. I meant this, you know, this is what I meant. And it's worth it, because if there's a misunderstanding, misinterpretation, people can end up at different locations, different times if they have a meeting. It's bring the wrong thing to a business meeting, not knowing what they were supposed to really have ready. It happens in so many different ways, but cleaning out, it's like cleaning out the confusion, the distortion, and being more able to say, let me make sure I got that.
Yeah, and you mentioned texting, because to me, it seems like, especially our younger generation, I feel that they're losing out on a lot of communication skills because they're so busy doing this number, and text can be misconstrued so easily, you know, because you can't see that, you can't hear the tone, you can't see the facial expressions. And is there any cure for that, aside from the lengthy text? I'm like you, my text messages tend to be quite long, because I want to make sure my point is, what I'm trying to say is understood. Mm-hmm. But you get these short ones, and you can't tell if the person's happy, sad, angry, or, you know, barking orders at you, or what.
Well, I just think that with each era of technology, there'll be adjustments that just will happen naturally. Let's say 50 years ago, people didn't think they'd be talking this way on a Facebook Live or on a Zoom being recorded. Video calls were like parts of in the 60s, all the TV shows that said that might happen in science fiction. So now we're living it, and we're still connecting, and we still have relationships, and people still are having connection and pairing up in partnership, or having, you know, different kinds of relationships. So people are still having relationships and relating. How they do it and how they communicate has changed. To write to someone in the past, the letter took up to a week to get to someone else. And you're still saying the same thing sometimes as you are in text immediately. All the acronyms, people might get a little fatigued by it. So it might revert back one day to a little more detail, but maybe not. Generation we're getting to a different stage of technology is in our lifetime. We are baby boomers. In our lifetime, there's been lots of different technology evolutions. Some people that are watching this, the only thing they've ever known is what we're doing here. So things change with the times, but people's human nature doesn't really change, meaning misunderstanding each other instead of trying to understand each other, trying to go faster than slower, and not paying full present attention. Those things, though, I think there'll actually be more attention on them because people are fatigued by that kind of, frantic feeling they have about doing too many things at once, trying to do too much communication at once. People would like to slow down. It feels better.
True. That is very true. That is so true. I was reminded as you were talking of a story I heard recently about communication. It's a funny one, so I'm going to tell it real quick because it made me laugh. It was a girl was talking about her first date, and this guy invited her to a fantasy party, and she thought it was this dress up fantasy party, and she dressed up in a costume for this party. When she got there, she was the only one in costume. It wasn't a dress up party; it was an adult toy party.
Okay.
And I thought, and it just what you were talking about just made me laugh. It made me think about that because that is a classic example of total miscommunication. Not clarifying with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of our anger today, a lot of when people get angry with each other, a lot of times it's just because of lack of proper communication, a lack of understanding what the other person was saying, and we're really quick to as you said, make it our put our own spin on the story where we're misconstruing it. So I think communication is something that we all can benefit spending a little bit more time learning about, slowing down and listening to each other and really understanding what the other person is trying to tell us before we make an assumption.
Even the health benefits based on how much you're a health coach for people, the health benefits of feeling fully understood, you even feel it in your body. Because when I work with people, I say, where do you feel something in your body? The tension is usually somewhere in their chest, tension, anxiety. Misunderstanding will have your body. You would feel it when you feel anxious and misunderstood. When you feel misunderstood and someone's definitely gone off on a tangent that doesn't do well for whatever they've interpreted about you, you get angry, you feel that in your body. So having better and effective communication between people, it really helps them feel physically well too. Not just intellectually, they got me, they understand me. It's, now I can take a deep breath because actually I feel like we are on the same page.
Yeah, it reduces the amount of stress the body is feeling, and that's something that I like to focus on with people is how can we reduce the stress that we're under. And my goodness, there's so much stress in today's world. We've got to reduce it where we can, and if we can take better control of our conversations and not feel the stress over those conversations, that's huge. Now you had mentioned earlier about the EFT. Tell me a little bit about that, because I really don't know much about EFT, but I keep hearing that phrase, and I know it's another way to help reduce stress, to help you manage stress yourself in your body. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's a modality that I teach that's self-administered. It's similar but not identical to acupuncture. Acupuncture helps people by inserting in certain meridian points on their body, which are energy centers based on Eastern medicine. There's a whole variety of specific points that an acupuncturist knows that if they put the needle in that point, it will help with the life energy, chi, having better flow. So the theory of EFT is that you are doing a different version of that with fingertip points. Some people call it emotional acupuncture, but it's really that you're de-escalating your stress in your nervous system. So it actually is very parallel to what I'm talking about trying to get yourself centered and calm. EFT, which I'm doing a workshop next Thursday locally here in Red Hook, and I know you're putting my post up later, and I thank you for that. Basically, you're touching certain meridian points along your body with fingertip points, and I instruct people all the way through. It's self-administered, non-invasive. I don't touch anyone, especially because a lot of it's virtual now during the COVID era. But it really just starts to relax the nervous system. So when your nervous system is tense, that is when you are least likely to understand something, be open to something, feel safe. So tapping will take a concern that's presenting that. Usually it's something you're upset about that's causing you to feel that way. And tapping will help you relax your nervous system. When we are tense and in that state, we are usually in the fight, flight, or freeze state. And we are defending ourselves in one way or another, whether physically we're just guarded, emotionally guarded, but also we're protecting ourselves from knowing more about what's going on in us. So tapping along certain points that I instruct people with, along with something called a reminder phrase as they're tapping, which usually has to do with whatever they're concerned about. We're tapping on different aspects of it so that the nervous system starts to relax. Each time you do a round of tapping, your body does relax. As a practitioner, it happens to me too while I'm doing it with people. And when you're more relaxed, just similar but not identical to, say, let's say hypnosis. Once you're more relaxed, more thoughts come to the surface. And usually they're very insightful thoughts. They're very helpful thoughts. They are sort of sometimes windows into what's really going on about why you're so upset that you weren't paying attention to. For instance, if you have a fear or a phobia about something, when you're most tense about it, you don't really know where it started ever. But through tapping, you can sometimes have your awareness, something will peek in like, remember this? It'll remind you when you were like, 6 years old and something happened that was very fearful, similar to what you're upset about now. And then you'll say, oh, and you won't be like, oh, that's why. You'll be, oh, you'll see things. What will happen is your nervous system will relax enough that you'll start to be more aware. So what I like most about it is that it's not invasive, it's not dictatorial, and that I'm not telling anybody, this is what's going on with you. I'm letting them find out, which is similar to the work I do with communication. You're helping people find out what's going on, that's the obstacle or the difficulty between them in a communication situation. And tapping will help. People will yawn during it because what that's symbolizing is energy moving. So when they yawn, sometimes they sneeze, sometimes they tear up. But usually it's because the theory is, because you can't see it, you just are having faith in that's what it's doing. You start to have a lot of feeling of relaxation, flow, awareness, self-compassion comes up a lot, insightfulness comes up a lot, usually not re-evoking of what you'll get is not a re-traumatizing feeling. You'll most often get an idea of why it happened to you and how you took it on at that time and why it's bothering you now.
Okay, so definitely a good holistic way to reduce your stress, when you're feeling stressed. And for me, that's important for people because stress impacts your immune function in a very negative way. So the less stress we have in our life, the healthier we're going to keep our immune function. And who doesn't want a healthy immune function at this time in life,
Stress is normal. Like stress is very important that we know it's always there.
Right.
The hardest part when stress is that we can't figure out why. Like we don't have any idea where it's coming from. And if we have no idea where it's coming from, then we can't try to help ourselves regulate more our nervous system, because we will always have stress as humans. And that's part of what motivates us sometimes. But it's important that we are not immobilized it by having no idea where it's coming from. So that makes sense what you're saying. Because some people will say, well, if I get that relaxed, what will happen? I'll do nothing. But so there's like a normal, I call it organic baseline of you will know what's going on or what will bring something up again. There'll always be maybe something that will bring something up again, but the more you're noticing and aware of what that is and what it is, you can actually tap on it when you're feeling it coming on. Right. And there's also tapping in the moment, not just always about an idea and a concept, but just if you're stressed and tense and don't know why. My famous line to most people, and I teach them, is when I'm in a waiting room. And the waiting room is endless. You don't know when you're going to be called in, motor vehicles, the doctor's office. It's just that if you can just do some of this, I once actually did it in my imagination because it wasn't something I felt comfortable doing in front of all these strangers. I imagined I was tapping on the meridian points, and it actually did calm me down. So
yeah, well, it has your, even when you're imagining it, it's got your mind think it takes your mind off of whatever it is that's stressing you at the moment, whether it's, when am I going to be called next, when it's going to be my turn. So I could see how that could definitely be a benefit and how it would work, even not physically tapping, just
Imagine.
yeah, imagine. That makes sense. That makes sense. I love that. So is there anything else you would love to add? And I'm going to, before I share anything, before I share our contact information and all that, is there anything else that you think that would be really helpful that people could take away today, that they could put into action right away to help?
Well, I can just, I can give you a brief example, just you and me together, what mirroring is, so that if people would like to do that in their lives, it's something that is fairly easy to do and very helpful in many situations, but people don't know exactly what it is until I show them.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can start telling me something and I'll mirror it back to you.
Okay, let's see. Oh, now you put me on the spot. So now it's hard for me to think of something.
Okay, so how do you feel about the heat today in Arkansas?
Oh my goodness. So we are in like triple digit heat. I've got a garden that is exploding. I went out to check the cucumbers and decided not to go pick them just yet because I didn't want to get all sweaty before we got on Zoom and before we started recording, because I know that just stepping out there for a few minutes and doesn't take any physical exertion at all, and the sweat starts pouring. So I love the heat, but
so from what I'm getting, it's very hot there. It's in the triple digits, very humid from what I understand. And you'd rather be able to get out there comfortably for your garden with lots of vegetables that are waiting for you. But this is ridiculous, the intensity of this heat right now. And before you started speaking with me, you were thinking of doing it, but you realize it's just much too hot and uncomfortable now. But maybe you'll do it later when I think I got that. Did I get that?
I think you got that pretty close. Yes, I think you got it very close. I didn't want to get all hot and sweaty. That was the biggest thing.
Oh, so did I miss anything? Did I miss any of what you were saying?
No, it's hot. It's triple digits. It's triple digits.
And is there more about that?
No, you need to come visit me and experience it yourself.
Okay. I'll wait till it's double digits instead of triple digits.
Well, yeah, we're just having an unusual heat wave out here. But no, you've got that right. You've got that right. So
mirroring is sometimes it's verbatim. If it's a little succinct, you can do verbatim, but most of the time, if you're actively listening, you try to get the picture of what the person's saying, paraphrase it. Although people sometimes are not comfortable having themselves paraphrased, they're like, that's not what I said exactly. I said this word, that word, this one, which is okay. If they need it to be that you mirror back exactly as they said it, it just takes more attempts to do it. And usually you ask if they could shorten the sends. Sending the information is called a send in the dialogue exercises I work with people on. And the more people are used to doing it, the less stressful it is, because in the beginning when they're learning it, the first thing is, I'm trying to learn something, but I'm also trying to repeat something, and I'm not sure, and is a lot of tension involved. But once they get more comfortable with it, just like anything new, it's more second nature, and then it's more of a rapport. So I often will tell, if I work with a couple, they'll say, what can we do after we have this first session of learning how to mirror? I said, just throughout the day in the next week or so, just mirror back and forth to clarify, I would like my coffee with 2 sugars today. I heard you say you would like coffee with 2 sugars. Did I get that? And I said, it's going to sometimes feel silly or sound silly, but at the same time, your coffee will come the way you want it. If your partner's asking exactly how to make it for you, that you're specifying back and forth, back and forth. It's like a little gentle ping pong ball game.
I like that analogy, a little ping pong ball game. So really it's just listening and then paraphrasing back, so that the person that you're paraphrasing it back to them, and you're saying, did I get that right? So that they can then confirm that either yes, you got it right, or no, you missed my point.
Right, and I also gently coach even the phrasing they give each other, because if they say something like, did I get it right, what's happening at that moment, the word right is cutting off something. It's like correction. So I'll have them say, did I get that? And sometimes they don't like leaving out, did I get it right? Because that's all they've been taught in life. I'm either right or I'm wrong. So you're already trying to have them not judge themselves and say, did I get that? And then the partner will say, you got that. I also wanted to add this or that or this. And then they'll add that, and then they'll mirror it back again. So that whole back and forth is a dynamic between them and any 2 people, and even groups do this. It's usually called something called a communologue, where they pass along information, but they all make sure that they got it. in a group. And if they didn't, they have to, again, try again. But it's important because that's group understanding of the same information. It's been understood. It's been understood as intended. And yeah, I think it's very helpful. It takes time. Everything important takes time. People don't like to take time because that's our world right now, but that's what it takes. And it's worth it because then you integrate it and learn it.
I love that. Yeah. It's true. We're all in a hurry and we don't want to slow down and take the time. And that's part of the problem with miscommunication, is not taking the time to listen and repeat back, mirror back to people so that there is a clear understanding. But it seems to me that we could really eliminate a lot of conflict in our life if we just practiced our communication skills a bit better.
And the stuff that we do that takes our brain will run away with what it wants to do. Because again, it's not just the words, it's helping people understand what's going on with their reactivity. Their brain is, I want to go think about this. I assume this. They must not mean that. They must mean this. And that's their own stuff. They've made their own whole conversation in their head.
Yeah.
And that leads to more problems than I can even count.
Yeah. Well, you're dealing with so many, you got these personalities, so many different personalities too. When you said, that some people don't want to say right, and some people do want to say right. Did I get that right? Or did I get that? There's a lot to really take into consideration. So I can see how it would benefit somebody to, work with you directly, work with a professional that can help guide and navigate this terrain, because it's a rocky terrain. It really is. It's there's so many aspects to communication besides just listening and speaking. And I see that with you. I see that, you've got a clear way of helping people improve those skills. So thank you on that.
Thank you too, Terry, because your whole approach to everything is also, you listen fully to the lifestyle of people, about what they do, how they eat, how they exercise or don't, meaning you're not judging them, you're evaluating what does their picture look like as a whole, so that if I help them, what can I do to help them from my repertoire of services, other people I can reach out to give them information they need, or even the products from Juice Plus.
Yeah.
It's all about a whole picture. It's not about, I'm only listening to you for this purpose, I want to send you some gummies. It's not like that.
Only if life was that easy, right?
I know.
It's not.
So that's why Terry and I are on a networking call twice a week together for 5-6 years already. And it's wonderful. It's called Simply Referrals for anyone who doesn't know about it. And I highly recommend you attend Power Hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard. I guess it's 11 o'clock by you, every Tuesday and Thursday. And so, sometimes you have to do this condensed elevator speech type of thing, and you can only focus on a little snippet, but Terry is much broader than that. And that's what I love to try to say in my testimonials for you. It's much broader than that. It's not only about a product, it's about everything.
About everything. Yeah. And really, that's the whole reason why we're having this conversation today, because I believe that health, being healthy is more, it's more than just gummies. It's more than one thing. There's holistically, we have to take care of our health in all different ways, managing our stress, being able to communicate better to help manage our stress. That's huge. And I do like to look at the whole picture with people, because that's the only way I get a clear understanding of where I can help them. You can't help somebody without knowing what they actually need. Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think that's critical. And communication and listening is part of it. It's, being able to listen to people and get them to talk and open up. Sometimes people are reluctant to share some of their more personal details, and sometimes it takes them a while to drag the information out of them, but it's worth it. It's worth it in order to help. In order to help somebody, we really have to be able to listen to what's going on in their life, not just what's going on their plate every day.
The part I just want to add that's important about all of that is that active listening is not just about doing it in the moment to help someone in the moment. You're usually offering someone, when you actively listen to them, something that was never offered to them before, or very rarely. That's why I like to do what I do, is because, of course, lots of experiences in my life were painful because I felt completely not completely, not fully heard at times, misunderstood by people, especially when you're younger and a child, which makes a big impression on you, adults that misunderstand you, teachers that don't understand you, people you pleaded with to try to understand you and they just didn't get it. So when you do this in the current time with somebody you're in relationship with, or even in business relationship, like when you listen, you're generally offering something people have not offered the person or very rarely did. And one reason they have hesitation opening up is usually because they had some type of a wounding or hurtful experience of opening up to the wrong person, someone hurtful, someone who didn't listen fully, someone who judged them, especially in the health field. They judged them for not eating right, not having a healthy lifestyle. So you're putting them at ease very soon into the relationship, which is what you're known for. And that's what all her testimonials are about. Hey, Terry. But that's true. You're doing a healing experience. That's what a lot of the active listening, validating, empathizing is healing. That's why I work. That's why it was first designed, especially for couples. They're trying to heal what happened in their earlier life because they brought it with them to the current life. And that's why it's so healing to have those experiences of being fully understood and heard. And that's why it works in your type of situation too, with people who they're vulnerable when they talk to you, unless they're too guarded to even think about discussing more. They just said, let me order it and that's it. But if they want to explore more about lifestyle, I know that you're very open to that and you help them with that.
Absolutely. And I think listening to people, you said the word, it validates them. And, a lot of times we go through life feeling invalid because people don't listen to us. So I think that everyone deserves to be heard. And, we need to take the time to listen. We really do. We need to take the time to listen. Mm-hmm. All right. So with that, I'm going to share some information so that if anyone wants to contact you or me, they have that information. Let's see if I can pop that up here on the screen. There we go. And while this is up, I am going to check Facebook real quick and see if we had any questions that need to be addressed. Okay. And you got to give me a second here because I'm kind of technologically challenged in some ways. I impress myself sometimes that I can actually do this, but then in other ways, I don't. Okay, we got a comment here. Let's see. Okay, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear the volume. I want to find, okay, see, I can pull it up, but I can't find the comments. Okay, I apologize. Come on. There is a comment on here. Oh, wait, there. Swipe left to reveal comments. Okay, left that way. Oh, okay. Mary says hello. She didn't have a question. She said hello, ladies. So,
hello.
So we don't have any questions right now. If anyone wants to take a screenshot here, Aviva's contact information is there. My contact information is there. Give you a second to take a screenshot. And then I want to share a flyer because Aviva's got an upcoming event that she wants to share. So you've got a second or two. People had enough time for that. So I'm going to stop that share and see if I can pull up this other one. I'll do this one right here. Okay, so we have this intro tapping. Now, is this going to be a virtual event or is this an in-person event?
This is an in-person event in Red Hook, New York, where I reside, and it's at the community center next Thursday evening. It's free to the community, and it's to introduce tapping to people in person so we can all work on some tapping together. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. People really like it when they try it. And it's going to be a monthly offering starting in the fall.
Oh, nice. Okay, nice. And that's going to be in your community center and it's free. It's free to the public. So anyone in the Red Hook area, definitely want to hook up with Aviva and check that out. I wish I was up there. I'm going to go ahead and stop that.
Thank you.
All right. So Aviva, I appreciate your time so much. I'm going to stop this recording. First, I'm going to stop the live.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and watching.
Okay, we stopped the live stream and now I'm going to stop the recording.